What is going on, everyone? Welcome to Locked On Badgers, your first listen every single day. We're going to talk about who are the most important and underranked players in this year's recruiting class. All that and more in today's Locked On Badgers.
You are Locked On Badgers, your daily podcast on the Wisconsin Badgers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Hey, what is going on, my friends? Welcome to Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. Thank you, as always, for making this one of your first listens every single day, your team every single day. So glad you're here. Today's show is brought to you by Sweatblock. Sweatblock, if you have someone you love, someone you know, or yourself experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweatblock. Save 20% with promo code Locked On at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. All right, again, just want to thank everybody for tuning in. We're going to get right into it. I had some comments, talking about where are we at with recruiting. This week's going to be kind of a heavy recruiting week. We got John Garcia Jr. coming up tomorrow. And then today we're going to talk kind of where are we at, who are the most important players, who are the most underranked players, and why this recruiting class probably doesn't really matter. All that and more coming up. Let's do it. So where are we at? Right now we have 13 verbal commits, which none have left since the news of Paul Chryst being fired. All the verbal commits up to this point have stayed. There are no 4-stars in this class. This class is 55th nationally and 12th in the Big Ten if you look at the 247 composite rankings. Now, you can make an argument the class should be a couple ticks higher if you look at star rating versus composite numbers. Either way, it's not good, right? Like whatever metrics, whatever lens filter you want to slide over this, you're still not going to be looking at a super rosy picture right now. That doesn't mean there's bad players in this class. There's several players I really like, but this class is clearly not where Wisconsin needs it to be, right? And it's coming off a year where Wisconsin was 41st nationally and 11th in the Big Ten. So, yeah, we're on the precipice here, and it's going to happen, by the way, of stacking two mediocre to kind of bad recruiting classes back to back. And if you remember when John Garcia was on the show, Sports Illustrated recruiting director, he said Wisconsin really should be right around 25 to 30. I think he used 25, but right in that range every year. If they're not there, it's a failure. Right. It's because of the program's ability to, I don't know if they have the winning legacy anymore, but there's a lot they can sell, and you should be a top 25, top 30 type program in recruiting. So 55th right now, 41st nationally last year. It's not good enough. Interestingly enough, Wisconsin has had no commits since June. So it has been a minute. Just to remind everybody, it is October, right? So it's been a minute, and they've missed out on some pretty big targets since that point. With the coaching turnover, Christopher Tarek, the offensive tackle, really big time get, was being looked at by Notre Dame. Trech Kekahuna, who a lot of Badger fans really like. Boy, the heat has turned up on him. Oregon, Texas A&M, which are both big time NIL schools, are definitely taking a look there. Arizona State offered. So, if you're looking at the prospects right now in our class, certainly Trech, certainly Christopher Tarek have really schools kind of sniffing around, right? Like anytime there's coaching turnover, schools smell blood, right? They start circling, start trying to pick off pieces like little scavengers. And listen, that's fair game. Wisconsin's no different. Wisconsin also flips people. So definitely those two. I think there's a couple other ones. Jacques Keys was somebody who was getting some Michigan interest before all this happened. I've seen nothing on him to make me wonder, but there's something there. I know Bielema, Illinois, still kind of looking at Broderick Davis, Jamel Howard, the defensive lineman out of Illinois. So there's something to keep an eye on. Yeah, a lot of interesting moving pieces. We'll have to see kind of how this continues playing out. The class noticeably is still missing a quarterback. There's no tight end in the class. So that's kind of where we're at, right? 13 commits, not a big group of people so far, not a group big verbal commits, not a big group of young men so far. Nobody's flipped since Paul Chryst, but definitely some blood in the water, definitely some prospects and some players that, are receiving a lot of interest and reciprocating that interest as well. They should. Really quick PSA. Nobody should be on Twitter crushing these kids if they make a different decision, if they go somewhere else. Be disappointed. I'll be disappointed, right? Like I get disappointed when they flip and they transfer. But they're making business decisions, and Wisconsin just lost their head coach. And we, quite frankly, can think it's going to be Jim Leonhard. We don't know. You can't tell a kid for sure this is what's going to happen. We don't know how the rest of the year is going to go. We don't know which other players are going to transfer out. We don't know which assistant coaches are going to be here. So when we start to see, and I think we're going to see some kids flip. When that happens, just be classy. Be classy, Madison. Be disappointed. I'm probably going to be disappointed if some of these kids flip, but keep it classy. They're making business decisions, and it's hard to blame them when the head coach is fired, right? So let's talk about my three most underrated prospects. Like I think there's some kids in this class because I don't want it to be all negative, right? I talked about we're 55th nationally. It's not a good class. Just in a rankings perspective, it's not a good class, and we're about to stack up two mediocre to bad classes in a row. But let me give you three kids who I think are, and I've said this from the jump. I've said this from the moment they committed. Three kids that I think are underranked. Let's start with Jamel Howard. He's one of our lowest ranked recruits. I think he's second lowest in the 247 composite. Jamel Howard is the 6'3", 320-pound defensive tackle out of Chicago, Illinois, Marist High School. And for two things with this, right? You look at our defensive line right now. What's unique about it? I mean, just in terms of what's the one player you can't replace right now? It's Keanu Benton, right? Keanu Benton is the uniqueness about our defensive line, right? The rest of it, I would say, hasn't played up to standards, hasn't played up to par. And by the way, I was wrong on that. I thought the defense line would be a strength. I told y'all that. And yeah, my bad. I was wrong. But Keanu Benton has been that dude. He's still been that dude this year. He's second on the team in pressures. He's been controlling the line of scrimmage. When he leaves the game, the entire defensive line changes. The entire defense changes. He's been awesome. And you know what? There's no replacement for him. There's no other 320-pound dudes behind him on this defense. So Jamel Howard, that 6'3", 320-pounder, not only does he fit a critical need on this defense, but then you flip on the film of Howard, and he's not just a leaner, right? He's not just that big 320-pound body who leans on people, and they just can't kind of move him around because he's a blob. It's not Jamel Howard, sorry. He has a motor. He's able to use his arms. He has some pass rushing moves. He, can disengage from blocks. I'm telling you right now, he's not rated really highly because he's not going to be Warren Sapp or Erasmus James. Like, he's not that super disruptive player that everyone's looking for right now to get after quick passing games. But for the Badgers in that 3-4 defense, who are going to need to find replacements for Keanu Benton, he's worth more to Wisconsin than he is to other teams. And he's not just a plotter. So Jamel Howard, to me, is definitely one of the underrated kids in this class. I really, really hope they hang on to him. I think Bielema is going to initiate conversation if he hasn't already. That smoke's been out there. So definitely somebody I hope the Badgers hang on to. And a guy, the Wisconsin's, as long as Jim Leonard is here, is still going to be running the 3-4. And that nose tackle piece is so big. So keeping him in the fold would be a huge deal for Wisconsin. Let's talk Trech Kekahuna, who, from the moment he committed, Justin Jolka was on the show. We were talking about it. We had a show with him in Tisdale when they committed. And he's so explosive. Like, he is so unique. He is that slot receiver that we've been trying to find for so long, right? That Stephen Bracey, because he has been able to stay healthy. Aaron Cruikshank, because he had troubles hanging onto the ball. And quite frankly, I don't think we utilized him right. Dean Ingram, who's kind of finally filling some of that role. I'm trying to think. There was a high school receiver out of Florida too, who would fit that same mold. I can't remember his name. But we've been trying to find that explosive slot receiver who can really get open on little arrow routes, little outs, little ins, find soft coverage, explosive, stop on a dime, third down conversion guy. That's Trech Kekahuna. He's been awesome this year. First of all, high school kid. He transferred to Bishop Gorman, powerhouse high school in Nevada. And he's just been awesome this year. Explosive. Nobody can guard him. He is compact, well-built, fast. I think he's more than just a slot guy, but I think he can be that slot guy. And now he's blowing up. Like, he is the lowest ranked recruit in this class. But I think he's like a 4-star talent. And he's blowing up. Like I said, Texas A&M, Oregon, Arizona State, others. I don't know if we're going to be able to keep him, y'all. I mean, so much of it probably depends on what the offense looks like the rest of the year. Is Bobby Ingram here? Is Aldis Whitted here? He's a really interesting player. I really hope we hang on to him, but that's going to be a tough one because a lot of big-time programs with big-time NIL money are starting to sniff around there. Tyler Jansey, he's my third player who I think is just underranked. Like, he's kind of a mid-3 star. First of all, this dude is yoked up. He's not Chanel, but he is a physical 230-ish pound linebacker. great instincts, good athleticism, plays both ways out of Batavia, Illinois. One of the first commit in this class, and a lot of Jack Sanborn vibes there. A guy who moves around really quickly, he's decisive, he hits people, plays offense and defense, scored a couple touchdowns the other day. Just a total football player, kind of understated, doesn't do a lot of interviews, but a guy who is productive, fast, intelligent. His coaches rave about him, plays both ways, physical, ready to go. He's a stud. Those three players there, that's my three most underrated Badgers in this class. It's Howard, it's Kekahuna, and it's Tyler Jansey. We're going to keep going. Take a quick break, but before we do, we're going to talk about in the next segment, how can the Badgers salvage the quarterback room? What can they get out of this high school recruiting class that's still out there, but they might want to move quickly? We're going to talk about that next on Locked On Badgers. First, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at Sweatblock. And listen, Sweatblock is something, I have a personal story with this. I have a good friend, grew up with him, Tony. Not going to use his last name, but the dude's a sweater, okay? And he sweats so much, we used to just say, oh, you're getting all Tony. And Tony would sweat moving, balls of yarn, sleeping, eating, and it really impacted him. Tony would get all Tony all the time. And, he went from being basically a guy without a girlfriend, without friends, without much of a social life, sitting on a park bench by himself, to being the machismo man we all want to be because of Sweatblock. Because he reached out, Sweatblock changed the game for him. It was created by a doctor who needed help solving his own excessive sweating problems. It is doctor created, doctor recommended. It's something that helped my buddy Tony. He no longer gets all Tony. If you have someone you love, if you yourself are experiencing embarrassing sweat or odor, try Sweatblock. Save 20% with promo code LOCKEDON at sweatblock.com. Also available on Amazon. I want to thank everyone again for tuning in to Locked On Badgers, making this one of your first listens every day. Really, really do appreciate it. I can't tell you how much I appreciate it. A bunch of good content coming up this week, so stay tuned for that. We're talking recruiting, though, and something we haven't done a lot because, quite frankly, Wisconsin hasn't done it a lot lately. Zing, yeah. There's been no commits since June, but it is – listen, there are things happening behind the scenes. I want to talk a little bit about the quarterback class. I kind of teased, how can the Badgers salvage this quarterback room right now? Because if you look at the depth chart, right, it's Graham Mertz, who has 1 year of eligibility after this year. And quite frankly, people aren't really talking about this, or maybe they are. He could leave. Like, his head coach that recruited him is gone. We don't know what the offense is going to look like. He might say, screw it. You guys have given me a – listen, this is not trying to take anything away from some of the areas Graham Mertz hasn't been good enough in. And Graham Mertz will own those. But Wisconsin has also failed Graham Mertz. Different offensive coordinator, quarterback coach every single year, trying to shoehorn him into an offense where the play calling has gotten a little too consistently boring, predictable, et cetera, et cetera. We have not done a ton of favors for a four-star quarterback that came to Madison, right? Would it shock anybody if after this kind of dysfunctional year, he says, screw it, I'm going to go play somewhere else? It wouldn't stun me. I have no intel. I have no idea. If he did, I wouldn't say, bad decision. I would say, yeah, I kind of get it. You'd be on another offensive coordinator next year if Bobby Ingram leaves. I doubt Keller Christ is going to stick around. He's been working with them. That would be an awkward situation. Keller Christ, the nephew of Paul Christ, is working as a GA, working with quarterbacks. So you look at this quarterback room, it's Graham Mertz, who has 1 year left if he stays. And low-key, I think he will. I'm not trying to cause any panic or throw any rumors out there. Don't take that from this. I'm just saying he could leave, and it shouldn't shock anybody. You have Chase Wolf, who's never been able to be the guy, and he's injured. And then you have Miles Burkett. There's your quarterback room, ladies and gentlemen. I should mention you have Marshall Howe, who's a preferred walk-on out of Connecticut, came in last year with Miles Burkett. But that's got to be about the barest quarterback room in the country, at least among Power 5 teams. So how do you salvage that? How do you fix that? It starts with this recruiting class. You're probably going to have to hit a transfer portal, but you need somebody from this class. And let me tell you, there were 3 names out there. Now there's 2 that we know of. We had Ryan Brown, Cole LaCrue, and Parker Leise all on the show. Loved all of them, by the way, talking to them. All of them are great to talk to. I can 100% tell you that. Really, really engaging, smart, intelligent, respectful people to talk to. Ryan Brown is gone. He committed to Purdue. And I can tell you this, if Wisconsin had offered him and gone after them, they would have got that commitment. Now, I don't know what else is on Wisconsin's board, but I can tell you this: Purdue knows what they're looking for quarterbacks and receivers. He went there. Purdue was like, yeah, this, you check all the boxes, we'll take you. Ryan Brown, big kid, athletic, mobile, winner everywhere he's been. Won a state title in Florida. Really smart. I don't get it. Like I thought that was a pretty obvious offer. They didn't pull the trigger there. He went to Purdue. Cole LaCrue is the other one, right? Kid out of Colorado. A total winner, a guy with mobility, a really strong arm, like really good deep ball accuracy, the ability to extend plays, fit the ball into some windows, tough player. Another, like he went to Colorado last weekend on a visit. Like these players aren't going to be here forever. I would offer Cole LaCrue. I would offer, or if you prefer Parker Leise, who's more of the pro style quarterback who's down at IMG. He transferred, bet on himself, good accuracy, quick decision maker. Another guy that was on the show was able to, again, really kind of articulate really well what he wants to do, what his goals are. Listen, you need a couple bodies. I don't know why we're holding out what we're waiting for on this. This has the potential, unless they pull a rabbit out of their hat, maybe they're working on somebody. This has the potential to kind of blow up in their faces. I would have offered Ryan Brown. I would right now offer Cole LaCrue. And if they don't come, they don't come, but at least take your shot. And I guess I just don't see what the issue is here, because I think you need two quarterbacks in this cycle. So get one. You can't be too perfect here, because if you're too perfect, you're going to miss out on everybody. So that's what I would do. That's kind of where the quarterback recruiting room is right now. I think they're going to take a high school player. I think they have to. And I think they have to take a transfer too. I think it's a 2 quarterback class at a minimum. I think it's a 2 quarterback class, even if Graham Mertz comes back, because there's just not much there. And it's it's Captain Obvious here, but it's the most important position on the field. You can't let it get to this point. So that's where we're at with quarterback recruiting. I do want to mention a couple other players really quick here that are interesting. Evan Herman, Sussex, Wisconsin, 2023 edge player, coming back to – now this is his second visit to Madison. We talked about him a little bit with John Garcia. We talked about his first visit, kind of what we were looking at, what we saw in the film. He went to Vanderbilt last weekend. Now he's coming back to Madison. First of all, I think that's a great sign that he's coming back to Madison. I hope he's coming to commit. I hope they offer him on this weekend and he commits. I'm telling you right now, excuse me, sorry, I got something stuck in my throat. I can tell you right now, there are not a lot of 6'6" edge players with his athleticism. He has got a different type of frame than what we have in the program right now. You look at the TJ Bowlers, the Daryl Petersons, the Caden Johnsons, right, the Nick Herbigs. None of them have that 6'6", long-armed Van Ginkel type frame, right? That's kind of what Herman has. He's athletic. He's a hurdler, a guy who's done track and field. He's a little light. He's a little raw, but I'll tell you 2 things. You can't teach that frame, and his motor shows up on the field. I would not let this kid out of the state of Wisconsin. I mean, listen, you can't lock him up in a cage. If he wants to go to Vanderbilt or someone else, I'll let him out of the state. But I would not let him out of the state of Wisconsin without a Wisconsin offer. I would take my swing on this kid because just that frame and that motor, I tend to think things like that will translate. So he's coming back to Madison this weekend. I really hope that he's coming. He's going to get an offer and he pulls the trigger. I hope Wisconsin lands Evan Herman, because I think listen, let's be also clear. This is not a class with a bunch of 4-star kids. Like, this class needs some bodies. Okay. I'm not saying you just take anybody. Absolutely not. But this Evan Herman's got a Vanderbilt offer. He's got interest from other programs. Again, good athlete, good frame. I would pull the trigger if I'm Wisconsin. I hope they do. We'll see where that goes. We'll definitely stay on top of that one. Another one that I kind of wanted to point out that I think is interesting, and this is more interesting for the circumstances of it than the particular player, but we did see an offer go out to 2023 receiver Chance Fitzgerald. He's a 3-star out of Nolensville, Tennessee, 6'3", 190 pounds. He tweeted out that he has an offer. Interesting for me for 2 reasons. Now, I full disclosure, again, I'm never going to blow smoke with y'all. I haven't seen Chance Fitzgerald's film at all. I want to take a look at it. I want to sit down and take a look at it. But I put him in here because I think it's interesting. People were kind of wondering, are we doing any recruiting right now, right? With the staff turnover, with Paul Chris gone, and quite frankly, with the coaches all in kind of scramble mode to save the season. So the answer is yes, right? We're seeing tangible offers going out. We're seeing a bunch of 24, 25 kids cycle through campus. So the recruiting is still churning. Now, maybe we're not getting the results we want to see, but I think it's important to understand the staff is still recruiting. Offers are still going out. Kids are still coming to campus. And the other reason I kind of want to talk about it is the receiver offers maybe a little interesting, with 2 receivers hitting the portal recently. Both, again, Marcus Allen and Stephen Bracey both left. And then Trech Kekahuna getting a bunch of heat. It just does. It makes you wonder if they're seeing a need to get in on some other 2023 receivers to either fill maybe the Marcus Allen void in the room, or because they think Trech may be a flight risk. So that's kind of where we're at right now. Things to look for this weekend: Evan Herman coming to campus, a bunch of 24, 25 kids cycling in and out. And they got to fix the quarterback room. And it starts with this class, this cycle. I think I would offer Cole LaCrue. I would do it now. And if he's not your cup of tea, I would pivot to Parker Leise. I would. You're trying to be too fine right now with quarterback recruiting. And you got to get some bodies in there. And quite frankly, the other thing with quarterbacks is it's kind of a crapshoot, right? So get a couple bodies in there, see who the workers are, see who the dudes are, and the players who aren't good enough and that you miss on will typically transfer out anyway. I don't know. That's where I'm at with quarterback recruiting. They got to make some moves there. Coming up, a gigantic basketball visitor coming onto campus this weekend. What do we think the Badgers' chances are of landing him? That's coming up next on Locked On Badgers. But first, today's show is brought to you by our good friends at LinkedIn. These days, every new potential hire can feel like a high-stakes wager for your small business. You want to be 100% certain that you have the access to the best qualified candidates available. That's why you have to check out LinkedIn Jobs. LinkedIn Jobs helps find the right people for your team faster and for free. Listen, LinkedIn Jobs is something I've used in my career. It's helped me get jobs. It's helped me professionally network. One of the best people in my professional network I met through a LinkedIn job story, something he posted. I interacted with it, and then he's helped me professionally continue on in my IT career. So LinkedIn Jobs is a great way. It's not just about finding jobs. It's about networking and finding professionals that can, share experiences with you and mentorship with you. And you're able to find that on LinkedIn. Again, create easy jobs on LinkedIn Jobs. Simple tools like screening questions make it easy to focus on candidates with just the right skills and experience, so you can quickly prioritize who you'd like to interview and hire. No more wasting your time with candidates who don't make sense being there in the first time. It's why small businesses rate LinkedIn Jobs number one in delivering quality hires versus leading competitors. LinkedIn Jobs helps you find the quality candidates you want to talk to faster. Post your job for free at linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. That's linkedin.com/lockedoncollege. Post your job for free. Terms and conditions do apply. Thank you so much, everybody tuning in. Locked On Badgers. Really do appreciate just everything y'all do for me. Everybody in the community. If you like the show, take a second to like, subscribe. It really does help. Leave a comment below what you think of the recruiting. Who are your three most underranked players? Who would you pivot to on the quarterback room? Let me know. Y'all know we talk about on the show. Your comments do not go into the ether unheard. All right, let's talk about this recruiting class. But first, Daniel Freitag coming on the campus this weekend for an official visit. That's big on the basketball side. Jack Robison's coming as well. We talked about Jack Robison a lot, kind of the 6'6", 6'5" lefty shooter, out of Minnesota, same school as Nolan Winter. Definitely a player the Badgers are in on. A crafty, intelligent player, good size, really good shooter, can get to the rim. But let's not kid ourselves. Daniel Freitag is a 4-star point guard out of Minnesota that has program-changing athletic tools, right? He elevates the ceiling. So he's been to Madison a bunch, okay, 3, 4, 5 times. There's a great relationship there with Greg Gard. He grew up a Badgers fan. I don't know what the chances are here, but getting him on campus with an official visit is big. Greg Gard can sell recent program momentum. He can sell, what happened with Johnny Davis. He can sell that they sped the offense up a little bit last year. He can certainly sell they won the Big Ten title last year, right? All of that stuff matters. Now, what I've kind of been told with Freitag is he may not want to come to a system as much where it's a little more structured, right? This is secondhand stuff. I've never talked to him, so I don't want to put words into his mouth or kind of speculate too much. But a lot of point guards with that type of athletic ability, they want to go to a program where they can run the show a little bit more. They can get up and down, and it's not quite as structured, right? It's not quite as we're going to bench you if you listen. For right or wrong, Wisconsin has a way they play, okay? And even Greg Gard speeding it up a little bit is not playing in a fast tempo compared to a lot of other programs, right? There's still an emphasis on defense here that I love. I think it matters. I think a lot of high school kids probably don't love it, right? And they take an easier road. So do I think Freitag, do the Badgers have an inside track? I don't know. I know the longer it drags out, historically, the worse it is for Wisconsin. So let's see what they can do this weekend. An official visit's a big deal. Getting him on campus. Jack Robison's there as well. Let's see what happens there. I want to finish with basically the absolute needs of this recruiting class. We talked about this recruiting class a lot. What do they absolutely have to get out of this class? If nothing else, okay, the one is a quarterback. We talked about it. The quarterback room is barren. It is a dry desert with tumbleweeds wandering through it. If you look between Graham Mertz and Miles Burkett, there's nothing there. So you have to get quarterbacks in this cycle. You got to get two. You have to. And that could be two with a transfer. It could be two with a flip. It could be two with two high school kids. You got to get more bodies in there because freak things happen in football. Maryland had like 4 quarterbacks hurt, was it 4 or 5 years ago? We don't even have 4 quarterbacks on the roster for that to happen to. So you got to get a couple quarterbacks in this cycle. That's an absolute priority. I say you have to get a nose guard. And we talked about it. We talked about Howard. Howard's that guy. You got to hang on to him, right? You have to have a Keanu Benton type dude in the pipeline at all times. And right now, besides Benton, they don't. Right? Curtis Neal was a big-time recruit along the defensive line. But he's not Benton. He's 290-ish pounds. He's a little smaller. They just don't have that guy. So, Jamel Howard, that nose guard, is a big deal in this class because they got to get a space clogger. You got to get somebody who can just eat up space in 2 blocks and dominate at the point. You need a running back. You need at least 2 running backs. And right now they have 2. Are they going to hold on to them? So you did take a running back last year, which I always thought was kind of a mistake. I said it at the time. Now you're looking at a running back room where Ches Malusi is once again hurt, dinged up. Braylon Allen has regressed a little bit, and he could quite frankly leave after next year. Julius Davis hasn't been able to get on the field. Isaac Guerendo's been inconsistent. Once again, it's just a light running back room. So you need a couple running backs, which you have right now. You got to hang on to them. I think Nate White, the in-state kid, I haven't heard anything, but in-state, you probably have a leg in there. Jacquez Key is going to be interesting. He was a player who was getting interest from Michigan, albeit as a linebacker, but he was getting interest from some other programs after he committed to Wisconsin. And quite frankly, I don't know how safe Al Johnson's job is. We've speculated on that. I don't know. So you may have to go out and find another running back if Jacquez Keys leaves. And the other one I'd say, you got to get a tight end. This until our tight ends can stay healthy, it's just a freak stuff with them. They're snake bitten, but we run out of tight ends every year because our tight ends, for whatever reason, are just kind of injury prone. There's no tight end in this class. They tried to get the kid out of Tennessee, Jackson Culver. I may be misremembering his name, but they've tried a couple kids. They've missed on the ones they've attempted to get. You got to get a tight end in this class. You got to keep adding bodies to that room until you can build up enough depth because, we've seen it again. We're using jumbo offensive linemen as blocking tight ends. That's not a successful 2022 offensive philosophy. All right, having Logan Brown and Tyler Beach wear number 49 or whatever it is, 46, and be jumbo blocking tight ends. I'm sorry, you're just telegraphing to the defense what you're doing. So you need, in this class, I think you need to get a nose guard, a quarterback, a running back, 2 running backs, and a tight end. You do those things and you sprinkle in some solid players around them. That might be the best we can do. And you can survive off that if you make the right coaching hire. That's the other thing. That's the last thing I'll leave you all on. It's okay to jack up this recruiting class in a sense, as long as you make the right coaching hire, because the right coaching hire will fix it. It'll be okay. You can survive a couple bad classes in a row if you get the head coach right. If you rush to hire a coach or you freak out because we got to keep this class together, so let's hire somebody quickly. If you make rash decisions to save a recruiting class, you're going to shortchange your program. So this class can be solid. Keep the few players together, add a few spots to tight end, quarterback, limp through signing day, get the head coach figured out, and then attack the transfer portal. And then next year you have a deep in-state 2024 class, which we're going to talk about. So that's the strategy, in my opinion. I want to thank everybody for tuning in to Locked On Badgers. I'm your host, Ryan Herrings. When you're done here, go check out Locked On Big Ten. Host Nate Dickinson will take you all around the conference on Wisconsin, and we'll talk to you tomorrow.